the Samurai Road. This is what a foreign tourist called it. Nakasendo was traveled by feudal lords and samurai from the Edo period 400 years ago. As a resting place during the journey, post towns called XYZ-juku were established for each distance that could be traveled in a day. With the development of railroads and national roads, many post towns ceased to serve their purpose. But Tsumago-juku and Magome-juku, two neighboring post towns, remain and still attract many people as tourist destinations that retain the atmosphere of the Edo period. In particular, the Nakasendo Trail, a one-day trip along the mountain pass connecting these two post towns, is very popular among foreign tourists. There are mountains, rivers, roads, old houses, and fields. Only there is no sea. It's like a nation. These are the words of a foreign tourist. Beautiful Japanese nature and ancient Japanese culture. Local people are friendly to both foreigners and Japanese. Through this video, we hope that tourists who come there can understand and enjoy it more deeply. We try to introduce tourist sites and Japanese culture in a way that is as easy to understand as possible for both foreigners and Japanese. First, we will briefly present the historical background of the creation of the post town. The end of the Sengoku period and the Sankin-kotai in the Edo period. From the end of the 15th century to the end of the 16th century, the Sengoku feudal lords, daimyo, gained power throughout Japan. Sengoku feudal lords began to control the land and people within their territories, as well as engage in battles with other feudal lords to expand their territory. This era is known as the Sengoku period. A feudal lord named Nobunaga Oda, who won battles throughout Japan during the Sengoku period, was on the verge of unifying the country. However, he was betrayed by his vassals and ended his life in mortification. The feudal lord who inherited his will to unify the country was Hideyoshi Toyotomi, who was his vassal. He also fought against Ieyasu Tokugawa, who would later inherit the unification of Japan, but won and took control of him. In 1590, Hideyoshi Toyotomi finally achieved the unification of Japan. However, only 8 years later, 1598, Hideyoshi Toyotomi died of an illness. After that, Hideyoshi Toyotomi's vassals split up and a new battle began. The man who got big power was Ieyasu Tokugawa, who would rule Japan for a long time. Ieyasu Tokugawa defeated his opponents at the Battle of Sekigahara and unified the country. The era of war ended, and the Tokugawa family ruled Japan for 264 years, from 1603 to 1867. During this time, there were no major conflicts between local feudal lords, and rebellions against the Tokugawa family were suppressed. One of the Tokugawa family policies that brought long-term peace after the Sengoku period was a system called Sankin-kotai. More than 250 feudal lords throughout the country were under the control of the Tokugawa family. To prove their loyalty to the Tokugawa family, the feudal lords' wives had to remain in Edo as hostages. Each feudal lord's family was forced to travel in groups from their territory to Edo, Tokyo, where the Tokugawa family resided every 2 years. The feudal lords of each country were forced to bear a heavy financial burden due to lodging and transportation costs along the way, as well as maintenance costs for both their castle and the Edo domain residents. It is said that the rebellion of the feudal lords did not occur because the budget couldn't be allocated for war expenses. Sankin-kotai and Nakasendo. The roads leading to Edo, Tokyo were constructed so that feudal lords could safely travel to Edo for Sankin-kotai. The 5 main roads for Sankin-kotai are called Gokaido. From Nihonbashi in Edo, there are 5 roads: Tokaido, Nakasendo, Nikkokaido, Oshukaido, and Koshukaido. Of these, Nakasendo is a road that connects Edo and Kyoto via the interior. Similarly, there is the Tokaido, which connects Edo and Kyoto and is close to the coast. It is about 526 kilometers from Edo to Kyoto via Nakasendo. Although it is a mountain road with many steep sections, it is said to have been a popular route because, unlike the Tokaido, it was rarely stranded by river flooding. Nakasendo and Magomejuku and Tsumago-juku. 67 post towns were built on Nakasendo for travelers to stay overnight. One of them is Tsumago-juku and the other is Magomejuku. These 2 post towns are located next to each other. The mission of the post town was to provide lodging for feudal lords during their travels, but it was also for general travelers. Post towns also had the task of providing services such as providing horses and people to carry luggage to the next post and transmitting information such as letters. Type of accommodation. There were 3 main types of inns in the post town. The first is honjin. This is an inn where people of high status, such as feudal lords, stayed. The second is waki honjin. This is a preliminary facility for honjin. It was used when a large group could not accommodate honjin or when different feudal lords came at the same time. The third is hatago. These are inns that provide food and lodging for common travelers. Since the honjin and waki honjin had great responsibilities, they were run by local notables. That's all for the introduction. Now let's start with the Nakasendo Trail from Magomejuku to Tsumago-juku. Magomejuku Signpost. The journey from Magomejuku to Tsumago-juku starts from here. 80.5 ri, 316 kilometers, to Edo. It says it is 52.5 ri, 206 kilometers, to Kyoto. Ri is an old Japanese unit of length. 1 ri is about 4 kilometers. Tsumago-juku is 2 ri, 8 kilometers, away. There are no streetlights along the way, so you must leave by 2 p.m. Masugata Suzumiya. The post town where the feudal samurai lords stayed during their Sankin-kotai had a steeply curving road known as Masugata for defense against rebel forces. The curving roads reduced visibility and also made it more time-consuming for troops to pass through, which was useful for defense. This shows that even after the unification of Japan, during the Edo period, the government was wary of rebellions. Masugata in Magomejuku is in front of the Suzumiya souvenir shop. There are 2 levels of the road, the top and the bottom, but the bottom path is the traditional Masugata path. Watermill Power Station. At the Masugata is a watermill. In the past, it was used for rice milling, but due to the mechanization of agriculture, it is now used as a small power station. However, the weight of the generator would damage the water wheel, so it was stopped at that time. It's also a rest area, so it's a good place to eat street food. For post towns, water is an important resource for extinguishing fires. Fires often broke out at the post. Tsumago-juku suffered a great fire in 1634. Magomejuku, located on a mountain ridge, was even worse, and because of its terrain, where fire spreads quickly, it was struck by large fires many times. In 1860, the year before Emperor Komei's younger sister, Kazunomiya, was to marry into the Tokugawa family. A huge fire broke out in Magomejuku, and Kazunomiya's wedding journey, in which a total of 40,000 people were relocated for security reasons, was said to have been seriously disrupted. It is said that the Honjin, the wholesale house, and other central buildings were completely burned down, paralyzing the town's function as a post town for a long time and causing chaos. If you observe the city, you will see that there are many fire prevention and extinguishing facilities. If you look at the old houses in Magomejuku and Tsumago-juku, you'll see some with walls that protrude from the side of the roof. It is called udatsu. Udatsu is a firewall that prevents the spread of fire in the event of a fire. Since it took a lot of money to build an udatsu, having an udatsu in a house was also a symbol of wealth. In Japan, there is an idiom derived from the word udatsu. Udatsu ga agaranai means udatsu has not been built up. This is an idiom that expresses not being able to get promoted or not being able to do well financially. Shimizuya Museum is one of the oldest houses in Magomejuku. When you enter through the small entrance, you can see the inside of an old Japanese house. The museum displays materials from Toson Shimazaki, 1872 to 1943, a novelist from Magomejuku. This may be the first old private house you will see on this trip. Dochu Oyaki. It will take 3 hours to cross the pass. Don't you eat something light to fill your stomach? A street food called oyakis is a specialty of this region. It's a warm bun, but you can choose what to put inside. Because this is a mountainous region, it is characterized by an emphasis on fresh vegetable dishes rather than meat and fish dishes. You can choose sweet or vegetable fillings for the oyaki. It seems that eggplant and nozawana are also popular with foreigners. Tourist Information Center. Although there have been no reports of accidents, bears inhabit the mountain trail we will be walking. Warn the bear that people are nearby and ask it to move away. You can borrow a bear bell from the Tourist Information Center. Please return the borrowed bell to the Tsumago-juku Tourist Information Center. When you rent it, you pay 2,100 yen, and when you return it, you get 2,000 yen back from April 2024. The bell makes a pleasant sound when you walk. You can also buy a certificate of completion as a souvenir. At the end of the trail, get your tickets stamped at the Tourist Information Center in Tsumago-juku. Toson Memorial Museum. This is the remains of the Honjin of Magomejuku, which was the residence where the feudal lords stayed during the Sankin-kotai. The original main building was destroyed by a great fire in 1895, but has since been rebuilt. It was also the family home of Toson Shimazaki, a novelist from Magomejuku. Toson Shimazaki was both a romantic poet who praised love and a naturalistic novelist who observed the facts of nature and depicted the truth. His masterpiece is a full-length historical novel modeled after his father, Before the Dawn, which begins with "All Kisoji is in the mountains." His thoughts on his hometown, his descriptions of its rich nature, and his writings, which were written after thorough research of historical facts from the end of the Edo period in the 19th century, have been highly praised as both novels and historical records. Before the Dawn is set in Magomejuku and was made into a movie in 1953. Currently, this building serves as the Museum of Toson. By the way, this area is on a mountain ridge, so it is difficult to dig a well to get water, but this house has a well that is quite deep. We can know that they were a rich family by the fact. From Magomejuku to Tsumago-juku Samurai Road Journey, 43 points of interest to learn about Japanese culture. Volume 2. Next time, I leave Magomejuku and go over the Samurai Road Pass, where there are many historical sites.